Tell me why you've been wasting precious.
I came to work at the Arkangel through an organisation called Endurance UK, who works in partnership with the WEA. The WEA is a charity that funds education for adults. So instead of students going into an institution like a college for further education, the tutors come out to the students. It started, in all honesty, as a creative writing group because that's what my qualifications are, but it's built from them from there with support from the WEA and with lots of support from Ray Bullock through Endurance. It's a particular type of teaching because obviously the groups can be quite, they can lack concentration, they may have barriers to learning, it may be something, that they really just don't want to do. So what we're doing from an endurance point of view is building a group, first of all, building confidence. The skills are very secondary in this process as far as the education is concerned, although most students do come out with some qualifications. That teaching in this way in these particular groups, there has to be a connection for it to work, and that's what I think mine is. From that start, getting to the group could be what's called a soft outcome, and that can be the first of many achievements that hopefully that the students go on to do. So initially it is creating a safe environment. It's about students feeling comfortable here and able to bond, and for this to become their group and take responsibility for it. Within that, then the skills for life. So the skills for life are what they say: it's communication, it's listening, it's speaking, it's reading, it's writing, and that then leads on to the literacy and numeracy skills that students may already have, because we're talking about intellect here. We're talking about mature students who, there's an intellect, there's emotions, there's even spirituality that comes into this, what I call a certain amount of pastoral care that goes on within the group, and hopefully they get that from each other, not necessarily from me, but once the group is built, all those things are then starting to be considered. Literacy and numeracy qualifications within the skills for life are a qualification that will take the student up to a level 2. They used to be called core skills, English and maths. Added to those core skills now are IT. It's okay to assume that everybody has those these days, but they haven't. I think, certainly me, I'm an immigrant into the technical world, and we have to also consider with these students that there's not been a calm enough time maybe to even tackle those skills. So literacy and numeracy, we give an assessment, we say exactly where the student's at, and then we set the papers for them to build confidence. I'm not going to give a level 2 paper to somebody if they haven't looked at the literacy for a while. We'll give them either an entry level or a level 1 and then move on to a level 2 paper. The level 2 paper is A to C GCSE, and that is good enough for any CV that they may have to fill in future. There's a qualification that certainly Ray and me are delighted to be able to offer, and that's the mentoring qualification.
Next week.
And I think most of the students, once they start to do the paperwork side of it, meaning the assignments and stuff, they realise that possibly they've already been doing that within their lives, and they gain or gather more responsibility to pass those skills on. The only way I can do that is to keep revisiting ground rules and group dynamics. People need to work on their listening skills. They need to realise they're interrupting. They need to realise that they're breaking off into little groups and what effect that is having on the rest of the group. So I will keep coming back to that, and I'll hammer group dynamics if I need to, meaning, a dynamic is somebody always arrives late, somebody keeps interrupting, people keep breaking off into little groups, and hope that through that they get an identification of which one they're doing. And the only reason I'll keep bringing it back is because somebody is still doing that. So in that way, I'm not actually finger pointing and personalising. that maybe this is something you have to look at, and they pick it up themselves. It is difficult with a group like this. I ensure, hopefully, first of all, that we've got this comfortable environment, we've got a lovely training room, we can have tea and coffee, we can have plenty of breaks. I will ensure with any student who's quite anxious and they want to break, that, you know, if they're too embarrassed or too shy or reticent or whatever, that they'll just look at me and I'll stop the class and we'll have a break. Everybody's welcome to, you know, to say, can we have a break? We agree that in ground rules. It's about it being group-led. It's about them having respect. It's about realising that everybody in this room is in a different place, possibly. The one-to-ones that I have with the students as they come in, and they do come in and go out, that's the nature of this group. For example, I've had a student return today that I haven't seen for a while, welcomed back in by all the other students and from me, so that everybody knows that, you know, individually they are part of the group and they're missed when they're not here. It's lovely when students do move on, you know, they've perhaps done as much as they can with the group and they've moved on to other things. There's also the circumstance where the group isn't for them, and that's the way it is. It's not that, you know, anybody's failed in that situation, but I've also seen that at the time they're introduced to the group, it's not the right time, so they may come back at a further stage. Individually and in a personal way, I hope that through the one-to-ones, through the initial assessments that I do, through the mentoring system that Endurance advocates, that we realise to a certain extent what everybody's needs are, and we're bearing all of those in mind. So for instance, if nobody has ever looked at why a certain student has got barriers to learning, never looked at their learning styles, or explained to a student what a learning style is, that we can then overcome something that they've thought has always been a problem or something wrong in the past, and address it and include them then because of their learning style in the group. If somebody's a kinesthetic learner, they need to be holding the camera, they need to be doing. What I like to try and do with the new students or with students is to have some sort of early achievement, and that can be, you know, just by introducing haiku, for instance. So they've got a short poem that they've written, they've understood a structure and a form. They can take that away. You know, I hear stories about them, it's the first thing they've done for 20 years, first time they've written something. They'll take it home to show family. We try and produce a newsletter so that they actually see their work in print and published. That gives them an opportunity in a forum then to talk about personal experiences if they want to. That can go into their photographs of trips on residentials, any days out, and we do days out. I think one of the things that I've noticed working with the groups here is that possibly there is a stifling of creative ability. Learning styles aren't always the same for everybody. If that can be recognised as early as possible, we can then bring out that creative ability without stressing too much about punctuation and spelling, which seem to be the major things that people worry about. That doesn't matter, it's the creativity I'm looking at. You know, what are soft skills? To me, they are getting over those anxiety levels, socialising, coming into the group, feeling part of something. From there, creativity can grow. I think there's too much, or can be too much emphasis, and this could be, you know, another reason for barriers to learning, on ticking boxes. And to a certain extent, everybody's got to, you know, show evidence of what they're doing for funding reasons, but other things are much more important, first of all, within these groups. That will come. So it's the early achievement, them actually feeling that they are achieving, coming from strengths as much as possible within these groups, and everybody having a voice, everybody being aware that everybody's got a voice, and considering each other. There are progression routes available for them which they may want to take advantage of. Those are literacy, numeracy up to level 2. We can offer the Petals course. That isn't delivered by me, but it is done through the WEA. That's a level 3, so we're looking at A level. There's also the mentoring course, that's a level 2, and we like most of our students, all of our students, to take that one if they can, because it's important in their own development. It's the paper qualification of what a lot of them are already doing. And moving on from there, there is a new project where the Archangels and the Ark are going to work together. So we're going to have mentor-mentee relationships, married up. Whatever Ray does on the residentials, the paperwork is backed up in the classroom.
Okay. Yeah.
And again, it's about the students feeling like they're achieving, not getting stressed, realising that they can do this. So we're building confidence and self-esteem all the way. And they're all qualifications for move on, for CVs, for jobs, any support work or volunteer work that they might be involved in as well. When new students come into the group, what I find happening naturally is that the students, or what I would call the core of students that have maybe been here a year, working with the group a year, naturally take on the mentoring role and take responsibility for, somebody will come in and they'll say, do you want a cup of tea? And they'll make a cup of tea. They'll show them, around the building, show them where the toilets are and stuff. They'll encourage, they'll sit and chat to them. All this goes on independently, and they are, possibly without realising, but I'm sure that it's an effort, it's something that they do naturally to welcome others into the group, and they're all mentoring skills that they're using. All of those skills are in evidence in the class. I would like to see that continue. It'll be interesting because it's in its infancy, and obviously we're going to learn as it progresses over the next 6 months how it's working, and we'll adjust it accordingly. Anything that I need to add here or needs to be added on the residentials will do. There's absolutely no point in giving all these students all these skills on paper unless they're going to use the qualifications. And there is evidence, if somebody hasn't been to the group for a couple of weeks, where concern sets in and people will call round or phone to stop isolation going on, they're aware that that's where their mentoring skills come in. So the move on is that these skills are used, married up possibly with ARC students. That's a progression route. Many of the students moving on and taking their Petals courses, hopefully they're going to be delivering their own courses themselves. We've got examples of people who do brickwork, people who maybe want to look a bit more into drug awareness and deliver that in whether it's within this environment or other environments that need that information.
I'm sorry for the times I left you home when I was on the streets and you were alone. I'm sorry that I felt I had to go. I'm sorry for the fact that I did not know that you were sitting there just wishing we could go back to when it was just you and me. I'm sorry for the times I would neglect. I'm sorry for the times I disrespect. I'm sorry for the wrong things that I've done. I'm sorry I've not always been a good son. I'm sorry for the fact that I wasn't aware that you couldn't sleep at night when I wasn't there, because I was on the streets all night and day. I'm sorry for the things I did not say. I'm sorry for the things Dad put you through and all the times you didn't know what to do. I'm sorry that I left you there all alone. I'm sorry that you had to do it on your own. I understand that I've caused problems, and I'm not too blind to know all the pain you've kept inside you, even though it did not show. If I can't apologise for every wrong, and it's just my shame I didn't see, I was the reason for your pain, so you can put the blame on me. I'm sorry that I caused you so much grief. I'm sorry that your dad was once a thief. I'm sorry because you grew up way too fast. I wish I would have listened and not been so daft. But you'll always be the best thing in my world, and I'm so proud to call you my girl.
I said I'd help you through it, then everything went black. Meet me by the statue in town, wear your frown just like a crown. Be brave. strength within a frown. Be brave. Be brave. Be brave. Be brave.